Chapter 14. As the world situation evolves into greater and greater confusion and chaos, what is happening in the larger picture is impossible for the individual to perceive. Each can perceive only that portion of the whole through personal observation and through what truthful media information is available. This is further complicated by the filter of opinion, experience, and feelings through which each reaches their own conclusions. Any single person or any group, no matter how carefully known information is analyzed and checked, rarely knows the truth of any situation. As those who would control increase their surveillance through computerized analysis by satellite, scrutiny of communication exchanges, photographs taken in stores, banks, and in street intersections, individual lives become documented to the point of infinite detail. For what purpose is this being done if the abundance of chemical weapons would allow the annihilation of all or any portion of humanity at any time? If the human body is being deliberately debilitated through genetic food alterations, additives that are abrasive and destructive, diseases that are deliberately induced through vaccinations, destructive medical practices, etc., to what end is all of this leading? It would appear that humanity is no different than the animals that are demonically used as test subjects for the good of humanity. What then is to be the recipient of the good of the tests in which humans are the focus? In the larger picture, are humans benefiting from the animal testing? Following that thought pattern, would anything of good be likely to result from the testing that is being carried out on human bodies? We again come back to the conclusion that this planet and its human population are but a virtual reality game for those who consider themselves to be superior and in an ownership position. We return to the conclusion that someone or some group is misusing their greater intelligence to perpetrate an injustice of great magnitude. The victim, abuser consciousness is being played out on a massive scale. Surely, it is time that outside intervention by the powers of good can intercede. Unfortunately, that is not possible within the universal laws that uphold all that has manifested from potentiality into creation for the purpose of potentiality knowing itself. All is held in continuity through the immutable laws that govern without deviation. If deviation would occur, all would end in chaos. How then is chaos of any kind allowed? It is here that we must return to a concept that is found within the creation process. Each of you experiences it in your life expression as breathing. Your physical expression depends on it. Without breath, your body can retain life but for a very short time. Within the expression of potentiality into manifested expression for the purpose of experiencing thought into wisdom, there is the necessity of investigating this process within self-awareness by various degrees of knowledge and wisdom. When an experience is complete or reaches a degree of imbalance, then it is necessary that it be dissolved. The energy is then made available to be reused or recycled. This recycling process of dissolving and reusing this energy is called chaos and takes place in the larger reality in what might be compared to breathing. What is manifested, literally comes apart into confusion and returns to energy that is available for reuse. There are as many patterns for this process as there are happenstances of creation, in other words, it is unique each time it happens. The degree of chaos needed in order for the energy to be reused is also unique to each circumstance. How much chaos is necessary for humanity to recreate its opportunity to evolve within a positive situation? That remains to be determined by humanity itself. It is obvious that the current situation has no way to progress without a return to chaos. Those who have evolved and those who have chosen to incarnate on this planet for the purpose of changing the paradigm of experience on this planet hold the key within their conscious determination to play a leading role within this drama that is playing itself out now. The determination of who writes the final scenes for this current theater production is very much up to those present right now. It will not wait for another generation to pick up the task from another one that has ignored the responsibility and left it to the happenstance of someone else to do it. How much help can be contributed from the galactic community, it must again be pointed out, depends on enough human beings rising above the victim focus and accepting responsibility. This is their only recompense. Chapter 15. As the situation progresses, the intensity of the changes that will be experienced by each individual and by those of each culture will begin to become more apparent. Thus far, the changes have affected particular group experiences. However, as the warring factions become more widespread, individual experiences of chaos will expand correspondingly. Eventually there will be more areas of war and aftermath of war than areas of apparent peace. In other words, this experience will spread like a skin disease across the surface of the planet. In using the word war, that includes the usage of biological agents as well as the usual destructive kinds of weaponry. It is difficult to understand what purpose all of this pain, misery, and destruction of a beautiful planet can possibly serve. It is in entering the observation mode of the larger picture that the true insanity that underlies the plan of the controllers becomes obvious. By contemplating the free will aspect of the laws of the universe, it would appear to be an element that could return all that is back to potentiality. Indeed, it is a possibility. It could be the cause of the end of an experiment birthed from potentiality that would be just another idea that didn't work. It is something to contemplate. However, it is also possible that there is a counterbalance for this type of free will action, that upon reaching a certain level of imbalance, an offsetting action is brought into play as a natural effect. If we continue to consider this from the perspective of the virtual reality game, there are always elements of surprise written into the game, not by the players, but by those that formulate the game in the first place. It may safely be assumed that the players in this game did not write the rules. That they are attempting to write new rules is apparent, but those do not supersede the rules that came with the game as brought into being in the first place. What are these surprises that cannot be overridden by new rules? Those can only be learned by playing the game. That is the point of all of these messages. All the players must play the game and search for the strategies that will allow them to succeed and continue on in the game. The experiences of manifested life are never boring for those who search for challenge by not allowing themselves to settle for what is given them, but strive to create what they desire. However, the universal laws must be observed in order that the progress made in the game is continuous in the long run. That does not mean that there will not be temporary setbacks through errors in choices, or that these choices will not be repeated until wisdom is gained through these repetitions. Thus, we find that humanity has placed its progress in the game of evolution in trusting that these controllers are their gods, and that gods always are benevolent and have their best interest at heart, or are fearsome and cruel and there is no recompense that will buy off their wrath. It is time that humanity realize that in order to save themselves and their planetary home, it is time to take up the mantle of responsibility and stand forth in their own power. In order to do this, fear must be put aside. Fear cannot be conquered. Those are words that tie humanity to what has held them in bondage. The very verbiage of the language contains programmed intimidation. Words of war such as conquer, vanquish, threaten, superior, force, intimidate, capitulate, etc., keep the focus on competition rather than cooperation. Mankind on planet Earth will only transcend this situation when cooperation becomes the byword of all interaction. Many experiences of a competitive nature can be experienced within the spirit of cooperation, like sporting events, for they promote skills that are of use in other applications as well as in learning to appreciate the capabilities of the human body. It is contemplating how humans can stand forth in their own power that is the question. This is particularly true when considering the overwhelming organization and power that is being wielded by the controllers and their pawns. However, it is at the basis of this entire situation that the key is found. Humanity has allowed itself to be placed in a position in which it cannot match the opposing forces' chosen focus of power. It must now find a totally different approach. The one thing that a human possesses that cannot be taken away, though methodology is being developed to attempt to do this, is the thought process. Even those that have experienced mind control techniques involving incredible experiences, are often able to regain their autonomy of thought. It is the combined, cooperative focus on a simple concept that can and will place humanity beyond the situation that now surrounds it and threatens to overwhelm it. It is within the conscious choice to acknowledge the situation, leave victimhood behind and cooperatively focus on an ideal of experience that this power is available to mankind. When a consensus can arrive at this point, then a direct appeal can be made that will bring forth assistance and there will be an end to the current control of this planet. However, the victim, abuser consciousness must be transcended or the process will be repeated until that knowledge becomes wisdom. Releasing victim consciousness will not be an easy transition, for it is deeply ingrained within the population of this planet. It is an important element to be held in the forefront of future considerations. End chapter 15.